Hi, welcome to the You Design It Studio. Today we're going to jump into Illustrator and learn how to create a 3D paper popsicle. So here's the popsicle that we're going to make, and it is 3D. And it's actually a lot simpler than you would think. Before we jump into Illustrator, I wanted to go over some of the things you're going to be learning during this video. You're going to be learning a bunch of different tools and functions like the selection tool, direct selection tool, the shape tool, which is like the rectangle, the ellipse, and like a rounded corner rectangle. You're going to learn how to divide, make a compound path. That is a key to exporting files from Illustrator to programs like Design Space or Silhouette Studio. The line segment tool, the shape builder tool, asset export, document info, which is a very cool feature, and the pencil tool, and other things like align and viewing windows and rulers, all kinds of different things. So move at it at your own pace, and remember to pause or rewind wherever you need it. But are you ready? Let's jump right into Illustrator. So when you first open Illustrator, you'll see a screen something similar to this one, and we're actually going to create a new file. So select new file, and I'm just going to select the 8.5 by 11. I'm going to leave everything else the same and just click create. Alright, now that we're in our workspace, I'm just going to move this around a little bit. We're going to create the initial shape of our popsicle. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle, click and drag, and then we're going to come up to the back to the shape tool, and we're going to click ellipse. And I'm going to make a perfect circle, so I want to, I'm just going to click and drag, and I'm holding the shift key down to get to the approximate width. We'll fix that in just a second. So I'm just going to move this to about here. I'm going to bring the rectangle to the front. I am not used to doing this with the menus on the computer. I usually use the shortcuts. So I'm going to bump this down just a little. Actually, we're going to go the whole way down to about there. All right, let's check the width of the rectangle, which is 2.6389, and I'm just going to copy this number and come over to my circle and click on it. Then I'm coming back over to the transform for the width, and I'm just going to paste that amount in there and hit enter. So now both of our shapes are the exact same width. Okay, so from here what we're going to do is select both of these, both shapes, and come over to the left toolbar and, oops, wrong one. I always forget where this is. We're going to select the shape tool. And since I clicked off, now I have to do it again. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is a shape builder tool. So what we're going to do is we're going to make one shape from two. Now there's other ways that you can do it, like with compound paths, but this makes it pretty easy. And then you can also select which ones that you want. So anyway, I had it selected. I clicked on the shape builder tool, came into the top of the circle, and I'm going to click and drag, and as you can see there's a red outline and the inside is gray. And I waited too long, that's why it just went and did it. So anyway, there is a shape of the ultimate shape of our popsicle. Now what we want to create is our popsicle stick. So we're going to come back over to the rectangle tool. Actually, we're going to go to the rounded rectangle, and I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and I'm just going to create my popsicle stick. Now I'm not really loving the popsicle stick because it doesn't look round enough. So what I did was these little bullseyes right here, you can click on them. You see how the pointer turns to like the little half circle, and then a little circle. That's just letting you know it's selected. Oops, don't want to do that. I need to do this all at one time. Okay, so we're going to come over here and we're just going to select and bring that in. So now it looks like a popsicle stick, right? And I'm going to send this to back. And I'm just going to select it and move it over. Now I will tell you, when I'm designing my files, I will have multiple copies of different things that I've created. I do this just in case I want to reuse a part, double check it, whatever, just so I still have some of the originals. So really what I do is I'm going to zoom out here and see this is the inactive part of our workspace, but I'm just going to copy paste just so I have that original shape, just in case I mess it up. All right, let's go back here. So I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to either hold down the Command or Control and hit the plus key. And that's the way I'm going to zoom in. So now that we have our shape, we're going to actually look like somebody took a bite out of it. So we're going to come over back to the shape tool, and we're going to go to the ellipse, and I am going to just make a circle holding down my shift key to keep the proportions, and then I'm going to create another circle and maybe put one up here. Now of course this doesn't have to be any particular size. You get to determine what this looks like because it is your design that you're actually going to end up making. So I'm going to keep mine kind of like that. As you can see, I have 3 different size circles. That's perfectly okay. So I'm going to select everything, and then I'm going to go to the wrong one, transform tool. Nope, not even transform. So I'm going to come over here, and I am going to go to my Pathfinder. You can also go Pathfinder window and then scroll down and go to Pathfinder. The one fantastic thing about Illustrator is you can have all your tools here, and then you can keep the active windows actually open over here on the right hand side. So that's where I usually keep it. So for this time when we're combining these shapes, we're not going to use the shape builder. I'm just going to use the make a unite or to make a compound path. So there we go. It's one shape now. Now we're going to bring it over, and let's see, where are we going to put this? I'm going to decide what my bite looks like. So you can maneuver, change things around depending on how you want it. Maybe I'll go a little bit smaller. And now what I'm going to do is we're going to take the bite out of the popsicle shape. So I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to come back over to Pathfinder and click on minus front. Now if you've used Design Space in the past for Cricut, this would be the same as a slice. However, in Illustrator, you don't end up with your multiple copies of things. So I'm just going to click minus front. And there is the bite that's taken out of our popsicle. Now, if you don't like that, you can always go to edit, undo subtract, or you can do a Control Z or Command Z to go back. But I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. I'm going to smush it up a little. I don't want it to be too big. And I think I'm going to rotate it a little bit also. Here, let me go back for a second. So this is the object that we made. This is the way that the bounding box looks. So it is straight, or horizontal and vertical. It's 0. But I'm going to hold down. I'm going to bring the cursor over. I'm going to move this out of the way because this is sometimes in my way. As you can see, it's selected. Now when you move your cursor around, you can see that it changes shape. This, when you come to a corner and it has like the little curved arrow, that means you can rotate. So I'm just going to rotate this a little bit. Now I'll probably make it maybe a little bigger. I'm going to keep my proportions about the same. And maybe move it down here just a little bit. Like it's the bite's taken out of the side. Let's rotate it a little bit more back. Okay, I'm gonna like that. I could sit here and fuss with that for hours. So anyway, I'm gonna reselect those two shapes and come over here and click the minus front. And now we have our bite taken out of our popsicle. Okay, so again, this is something I'm going to do. I'm actually only going to make a copy of the top part of the popsicle. So you can either do a copy paste like we had done before, or what you can do is the Alt key or I can't remember what it is on, or no, I think it's the Alt key on PC, but it's the Option key on Mac. If you have something selected, if you hold that down, you can see that there are now 2 little arrows there. You can click and drag and you can make your copy. So there we go with that. Now I'm going to take this popsicle stick and I'm going to just move it right here on the side. Because now what we're going to do is we're actually going to build our 3D, build the shape to make it 3D so it'll fold and whatnot. So here we are. I'm going to zoom in here. So I'm going to use my Command and plus or Control and plus, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Actually, I'm going to zoom in quite a lot because we're going to do the hard part first. Okay. Here is the top of our popsicle. Now, if you have ever put together any 3D projects, paper projects, you know that you have to have strips that with little tabs on it that connect pieces together so it keeps its 3D shape. So what we're going to do here is something that's kind of weird. However, let me zoom back out. As you can see, this is the curved area. That's Okay, now that we're zoomed in on this, I'm going to show you something. We are going to actually calculate the width of this curved path. And however, we need to make one small modification just for our sanity. So we are going to zoom in here. And as you can see from this line, that this area here is not straight. So I'm going to make that straight. because if not, it's going to drive me bananas. So I don't have my, I do not have the ruler selected. So let's come up here. Let's go up to view, and we're going to scroll down. And where's my rulers? There they are. Show rulers. I'm going to come over to the side, and I'm going to click on the ruler, and I'm going to drag over, and that's going to give us a guide. And why it did that, I'm not sure. Okay. Let's do that again. Now that we can view our guides, I'm going to come over to the left and create a vertical guide so that we can align some things. So I'm just going to click on it, like literally click on the ruler, and then I'm going to drag it across and bring it over and line it up on my shape. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, so I'm going to Control or Command plus. Oops. So I'm just going to grab the magnifying tool from over in the toolbar right here, and I'm going to zoom in this way. I'm just going to click and drag till I get to where I want to be. This is the hand tool. If I probably haven't said anything about it yet, but the hand tool actually allows you to move your page around. So it's not moving the object, it's literally moving your page, so you can center things or whatnot. And I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to select my guide. What else? You can also, here, let me go back. Now I'm going to do the Command Z or Control Z, and you'll notice that if you look really close, this is our guide, and this is the bounding box for our object. Okay, now that I have both the object and the guide selected, I am going to, let's see, we need to change this. This is the align, and you can go to View, Window, and align. Mine actually sits in here, and it also sits in here. It's probably duplicate, but whatever. So when you're using the align tool, you can align to the artboard, which artboard basically is your paper. You can align to a selection, or you can align to a key object. Well, we're not aligning to the key object, and we definitely don't want to do the artboard. So we're going to use align to selection, which means that it's only going to work with those pieces that you actually have selected. So let's click that. And we're going to we're going to click the horizontal align right. So now these are perfectly aligned. We're going to go back in, zoom. I'm going to select the direct selection tool this time. The direct selection tool will allow us to click on anchor points and also the handles and move them around independently from the rest of the graphic. So I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to bring it over here. And now we have a wavy line here. So I'm just going to take this and pull it down straight. So I'm actually holding this little handle, and I pulled it down. Now this looks a little funky too. I'm just going to fix it, because if not, then it'll just drive me bananas. So I'm going to come over here, and you can play with it. You can lengthen it. You can expand. You move these around. So that all works. All right. Now that we have that aligned, this will save us a lot of trouble. All right. I'm going to zoom back out with the Command or Control. But this time I'm going to use the hyphen or the minus to zoom back out. And I'm going to delete this, the guide. So I selected it, and I'm just going to click delete on the keyboard. Okay, so there we go. This is a much better version of this. So let's clean this up a little bit. We already have, do we have enough? Nope, we're just going to delete this. And I'm going to move this over here and I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option and click, drag. I'm going to, you hold it, you have to let go of the mouse first and then the key on the keyboard. Alrighty. Now let's zoom back in. So select the piece that you want, Command or Control, hold that down plus the plus key and bring that in. Alright, now we're going to get down to the nitty gritty. We're going to create another version of this because we're going to need two. So I use the Option click drag or the Alt click drag to make two. Now what we're going to do is select both and align bottom. I'm going to zoom out a little bit and move over so you can see. Now what I want to do is I want to actually cut these in half. Because we need, when we're designing the 3D aspect of this popsicle, we need to have tabs and things to fold, again, to make the shape of the 3D. So right here we're going to select the direct selection tool, and when you select any of the nodes with the direct selection tool and click delete, it'll just delete that node or that anchor point. It will leave the rest there. Oh, let's go back. Hold on one second. Let's change the color of this. So we're going to change the color. I'm going to click that and I'm going to make this just a light blue and get rid of the stroke. Okay. So now you can see the nodes. Maybe I should make that like a pink. Make that pink so you can see. Okay. So we're going to come down here and we're going to click this node or this anchor, and I'm going to hit delete. Let's swap this around so you can see. So now you can see I switched it from being a fill to a stroke. I had it right the first time. But now this path is only like the bite mark and around the top and on the side. The bottom and the right side are pretty much gone except for this section here. And that's okay. That's what we want. So then we're going to come over here and I'm going to hit click on this anchor and hit delete. And then that's all we're going to end up with is just literally the top portion of this ice cream or popsicle stick. All right, now I'm going to take this piece, I'm going to drag it down here and Alt or Option, hold that down, click, drag, let go of the mouse before you let go of the button on your keyboard. All right, now we're going to do this in reverse. I wanted to show you this way instead of slicing because it's good to understand how you work with the anchor points in Illustrator. So now what we're going to do is, all right, we had selected this one and this one to end up with this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to delete the top and leave the bottom. And I'll show you why in a minute. Okay, so let me move this one out of the way. I'm going to take the direct selection tool and I'm going to click and drag over the top part. And see how all these are selected? Up through the bite and around. We want to make sure this is open. Okay, which means not solid, like just an outline, and this one. So now we're going to click delete. And now we just have the bottom part. So now we have these two pieces. There's a reason that we have these two pieces is because we need to do some measuring. So the first one we're going to do is the easy one, and that is the bottom of the popsicle, the square portion or rectangle. Okay, so we're going to come over on this side in the transform, and we're going to see that the height is 3.736 inches. I work in inches. You can work in pixels, centimeters, millimeters, whatever works best for you. And then the width is 2.6389. I'm going to go to the type tool just because I want to copy these. So I'm going to click type, just click on my page, and then we are going to select the bottom box and double click, Command or Control C to copy. And we're not loving me right now with this. Why? There we go. And then the height, wrong height. Set the width and then the height. And if you heard my stomach, I am so sorry. Okay, so I copied that, and with the Control Command C and then Control Command V. So these are the dimensions of this bottom portion. So let's move these, make them bigger. And yours don't have to be this exact. And it really doesn't matter what the size of things are right now. Because it's a vector, we'll be able to easily change the sizing. So if you're using an 8x10 picture frame or an 8x8 or a 5x7, you can actually just easily just reduce or enlarge your graphic to whatever size you're going to need. So let's move this down here. And now we're going to do the curved part. Now, if you look over here, it looks like the width is 2.6389 inches and the height is 1.3332 inches. But we know because it's curved that that's not really the length of this whole path. It's not the length of this. So, in Illustrator, we're going to keep that selected. We're going to go to Window and come down to Document Info. And it's going to bring up this little handy dandy little info window. Now in mine, it already says objects. Yours may not say objects here. It may say something else. It may be document. This gives you a lot of information like it's CMYK. Mine has the US web coded coloring. The ruler I have in inches, artboard dimension 11 by 8.5, blah, blah, blah. Attributes, I can't talk today. Attributes, it just talks about overprint stroke. We don't need to worry about that either. But what we need is the object. So if you come over here to this little hamburger menu and click on it, there's all kinds of different things that you can look up the information for. But for us, for this one, we're going to use objects. And this is, to me, is so cool because now we know that the entire length of this curved path, if it was straight, would be 4.4688 inches. Crazy, right? I don't know. It's one of those things that make me pretty amazed. So we're going to come over here. And this is the weird thing. I tried to copy paste, but it won't let me. So I actually have to jot this down real quick. And that is 4.4688 4, 6, 8, 8. All right, now let's do this. 4.4688. Oops. Not looking at the keyboard. Okay, there we go. All right, now I'm going to enlarge this one and just put it over here. Okay, so these are our measurements that we need for our different segments so we can fold and score or put together. So we're going to draw another rectangle, and I'm going to make the width of it about ½ inch. Yeah, let's make it about ½ inch. Okay, so I'm just going to draw a rectangle. All right, now that we drew the rectangle, we need to set the dimensions of it so we'll work with our project. So we're going to come over here to the width, and we're going to do 0.5, and our height needs to be 3.736. So I'm just going to copy this. Just hit V on your keyboard. Oops. I'm just going to do this. But you can click V on your keyboard to also get it. And then we're going to come over here after we select this. And we're going to paste in that height. And I'm just going to hit enter. Okay, so we know that we need to make this into a box. We need 3 sides. So we need 2 of these. So we're going to click on it, hold down the Option or Alt, and drag over our extra piece because we're going to add something else. Oh, nope. Okay. So because we're making a box, we need to make sure that we have all sides. We have this side and this side, and then we also have the bottom. But we need to do one more thing to our tab here. And reduce the width. Now this is where the tabs come into place. Not the tabs. This is where the direct selection tool and working with these nodes to work independently. So we're going to use it. So now we're going to use the direct selection tool again to make the actual tab. This will be the piece that actually glues to the other side. So we're just going to come over here and click on the direct selection, click on the shape, and I'm going to select the anchor that's in the top right corner. Now I'm going to use my arrow keys, and you can do it that way. That would be 10 down, or, sorry, my keyboard's sitting on a crease. You can hear it go doom, 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 doom. Okay. Or you can hold down the shift key and then hit the down arrow for this. And it will, what it does is it moves that anchor in larger segments. So we have that side. Now we're going to do the bottom. So I'm going to do the same thing. Just click on the corner, shift, and hit the up arrow. And that's it. Now we're going to take both of these and we're going to put them together. Now, I will say some people do things differently than other people, and that is perfectly okay. If you know a better way to do this, more power to you, and let me know how you do it. So anyway, I'm going to click and I'm going to drag this over. I'm going to make sure it's aligned, so I'm going to select both. And this time I'm just going to come down here because this is what I use most of the time. I'm going to align to bottom. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit, because I think that I went over. Oh, that looks good. All right, let's just select these again. Make sure they're aligned to the bottom. Okay, good. So now we're going to select. I'm going to use the shape builder. And there you go. So I'm going to zoom back out. And now you have the shape for your tab. Of course, there's no score line there yet, but we're getting there. So we're actually going to need 2 of these, right? Because we need one for this side and one for this side. So we're going to take this and drag it over so we have 2. Now we also have the bottom, correct? And we need it to be the same dimension, the same thickness as this 1/2 inch here. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to zoom out again. And I'm going to take these, I'm going to just move them up. And I'm going to slide back over a little bit. So now we can see, because now we know that we need 2.6389 we need as our width. So I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to copy again by using the Alt or Option to hold down. And I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to come up here because I still have the selection tool, the one in the upper left hand corner, this one. Now instead of just freehanding it, I'm going to hold down the Shift key. And the Shift key will actually move it, like there's 45 degrees and then there is 90. See how easy that was? So now you're not worried about trying to make sure that you have the correct, you know, that you're not sitting there trying to line it up to make sure it's right. And in the transform panel, you can also see this is 270. So you can adjust that way too. But this is the way I like to do it. All right. So now we need a width of 2.6389. I'm going to double click. And I'm going to copy. You don't have to do it this way. You can write it down. Sometimes can make it kind of wonky. Okay, I'm going to copy. And then I'm going to go here. And my width. Let's just see what it does. Could be correct, could be wrong. Oh, see, yep, I knew it was wrong. Okay, so I'm going to undo this. I'm still going to paste. Oh, that's numbers correct still, 3.36. But here is like a chain link, which means that when this is selected, it keeps the proportions the exact same. So just like what happened when I hit enter after I put this in, it not only resized the width to this, but then whatever the percentage was, or the fraction, whatever. I'm really not a math person, but it changed this also. So it kept the same proportion, but in this case, we need to keep these unlinked because we only need the width. We don't need the height. So we're going to unclick this. So see, now there's a line through it. And oh no, that's the wrong one. So we need 2.6. See, I did it wrong the first time. 389. Let's go back and do that again. Okay, now that we have this, the bottom adjusted correctly, now we need to change the width. So you can do this if you want and try to align. I like to be precise as possible, especially when you're making a 3D paper project or a 3D anything project, because everything needs to line up. And even though I'm not the biggest math person in the world at all, I make sure that I try to get things as exact as possible. And luckily Illustrator helps me out with that. So we know that the width needs to be 2.6389. So I have it selected. I'm just going to come over here instead of copy pasting, because sometimes I make the boo-boos. So with width, and then now we're going to put 2.6389. Now I want to bring your attention to this. This actually maintains the width and the height, like the proportions of everything. So when this number changes, this number will change accordingly to keep that same exact shape. However, we don't want that to happen. I'll show you what this looks like. Okay. Oh, let's go back for a second. There we go. So anyway, we're going to keep this unlinked. And I'm going to type this in again, 2.6389. And I'm just going to hit enter. And now we have the same width, or different width, I should say. Now we have 2.6, but the height is the exact same as these. So now we know everything's going to match up. Now there's a couple ways that you can do this. This isn't a huge project. However, because you're designing this completely by yourself, you can choose to do the next part one of a couple ways. So here's our main body. Now we know we're going to need a front and a back. So we need two, correct? So I'm going to take these and I'm going to drag them. This mouse does not want to work. This isn't my normal mouse. There we go. Yeah, this is not my normal mouse. I look mouse challenged. Okay, so I'm going to make a duplicate of this. One's going to be the front and one's going to be the back. Now my front, I want to include, I'm actually going to change these and give them a color, because then they'll move better. You can see them. Okay. Close that up a little bit. All right, I'm going to put one on the front and then one on the back. So this is going to be my back. This is going to be my front. I'm going to move this over because I'm going to put this on the front. And we have to do something special with that. Now remember that we still have this piece up here, the top of the, we still have this up here, which is the top of our popsicle. We're back again. Now the top of the popsicle, remember it has this little section, so it does extend down a little bit further. What you need to make sure that you do with these pieces is to align to the bottom. So I am going to, I'll click at this time, because that's the way I have it set up. And then I'm just going to click down. Now on this side, it's backwards. So we need to flip it. And we are going to actually come over here to the side to this transform box, and you can see you can flip horizontal or you can flip vertically, but we're just going to flip horizontal. So what happens when I work too far away? I just click wherever and I'm grabbing anchor points everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to grab that and align to bottom. Now what we have to do is we have to move this over. Actually, we're going to just move it. We'll align again in a second. And see where it says intersect? That's how you know that you have overlapping lines. Now, I'm sure there's a better way to do this. I know I've learned at some point, but I cannot remember for the life of me. So anyway, that's what I do. Now you're going to take the tab and this, and we're going to line it again to make sure it's correct. And now I'm going to use the hand tool. I'm going to click H on my keyboard. I'm going to move over. I'm going to move that back over here. We're going to make sure it intersects. Double or select both and align to bottom. Okay. Now we are going to do the bottom piece. Now the bottom piece is going to be a little bit different. Actually, let's not do the bottom piece yet. Let's do these. So these are both selected. I'm going to use my shape builder tool again, just because it's cool. And I'm going to select both. And, oops. Keep that. And we're going to select both, shape builder tool, and over. Okay, so we know these are good. Now we need to put the bottom piece on. I'm going to go back to the hand tool. We're going to come down here. Now, this piece is a little bit different. And what we're going to do for this, what I want to happen is I don't want the popsicle stick to actually just literally just be the bottom portion of it. I want it to stick through, just so it looks like it's going through the center. And I'm going to zoom back out here real quick, and we're going to grab a copy of this popsicle stick. So I'm going to Alt Option, make the copy. I'm going to bring it over here, and we're going to zoom in again, back on this side. H for the hand tool to move. Now what we want to do is select both of these, and we're going to align the popsicle stick and this bottom tab together. And I'm going to come over to Align, or here to Align, and click Center, so I know where it is. Okay. Now we need to make sure that what's actually going to happen here, we're going to make a cutout. And we want it to be a little bit bigger than this, than the popsicle stick. So I'm going to select the rectangle tool, the regular rectangle tool, and about here. To about there is how big I'm going to make it. So no worries. You could also have just gone over to your transform and saw what the width was and then made the width a little bit bigger, but I didn't do that. All right, so I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to align them again. And now I'm going to do the minus front. And now our tab looks like this. Actually, let's go back a second. Let's see where I'm going to move this down just a little bit. And you'll see what we're going to do with this later. Okay, so got that. I'm going to come back over and go to the minus front. All right, so there we have that tab. And it is completed. So now we've moved it back up. It's now intersected. However, it's not lined up on this side. We don't want to line to the other side because that's actually a fold and tab. I keep calling it a tab because that's just what I'm calling it today. Okay, so there we go. There is the tab or the bottom fold. Side fold is already attached. This is the back. Now all we have to do is combine these two. So I selected both. We're going to come back over to the shape builder, and we're going to do that. So that's the majority of the work. But now it comes to the little bit more of a complicated part. Oh, I'm going to jump over here. So I'm going to make this brown, like a popsicle stick brown. Now with this, instead of worrying about, well, you can use a real popsicle stick if you want, like, please feel free. For me, I'm just going to use I'm going to just make it out of paper. But instead of it being just, one little sheet of paper, or trying to make this actually like into a 3D object, I'm going to cut out a bunch of different, or not different, I'm going to cut out a bunch of the same popsicle stick shapes. And I'm actually going to layer them and glue them together. So I like it to be a little bit more consistent with paper. But if you are okay with having this, having a real popsicle stick, then go for it. It's totally up to you. We're going to come back to these pieces here in a little bit, because there's one more thing that we need to do. But now we're going to go back over to and work on the top piece. And after we're done with that, then we'll do one more step and then add the score lines, compound shape, get it ready for export, and then we will be ready to roll with actually making the project. Okay, so we're on here. So we know that the width of our shape needs to be 4.4688 inches, right? So I'm just going to go here. Here's another way you can do it too. You can just select your tool, click on it, or click on your document. So anywhere in the document in the workspace, and this little pop-up will come up. All right, so we know the width needs to be 4.4688. So we're going to type that in, 4.4688. Okay. We don't want to have it the same width. Like, for example, if you want to make a 2-inch square, you could have this selected first, and then when you put the 2 in, it'll automatically put the 2 in the height, but we don't want to do that. However, we do need this to be 0.5 width. And click OK. So now we have our this piece, the curved path piece. But we need to add something else to it. And that is literally the tabs. So we can glue onto this piece and also this piece. So it looks like it's, somebody took a bite out. Okay. So let's zoom in here. And we are going to create another little square. It can be whatever size that you want it to be right now. And I am going to, let's zoom back out. I'm going to reorganize a little bit here. I'm going to take this. I'm going to move these down here. Oops. I'm serious, this mouse does not love Illustrator. All right, let's zoom back in. Okay, so now we need our little tabs to glue, like I was saying before. And I'm just going to use this rectangle. Zoom in a little bit more. And I'm going to click on a corner. I'm going to move it in a little bit. Moved it in 3. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Whatever shape that you want yours to be, you can make it. There are no rules. Now we're going to put it onto our line so that we intersect. Oops. Oh, I did it again. Okay, there we go. All right, and I'm going to make sure that this is aligned to the left. Now, here comes the easy part. And I'm going to hold down my option and make sure it's selected. Let's make this like 1/4 of an inch. So let's change the height on this down a little bit. That's good. It's almost 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so we're going to click on it. I'm going to make a duplicate. I'm going to move it here. And now I'm going to Control or Command D. Zoom back out a little bit. And what that does is it actually copies and places next to whatever the width is between the first two objects. It'll keep doing that. Okay, so as you can see, this is just something to always work with in Illustrator, or that always happens in Illustrator. Sometimes things don't line up exactly correct. So I'm going to take this one, I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to hold the Shift key down and hit the left arrow just so I don't have to do left arrow, left arrow, left arrow, left arrow. And select that and also the rectangle. And I'm going to come over to Align, I'm going to align left. Okay, so now you can see like the spacing isn't the same. So let's select all of them. So now we're going to come over here and we're going to go to the Align tool. And see these 3 little buttons or 3 little dots right here? If you click on them, it will actually expand that menu out. And I'm going to go to Distribute Spacing. So I have all of those little tabs already selected. And whatever the outermost, wherever the outermost objects are, like the one on the left and the one on the right, it will then distribute spacing between all of those. So we're going to do the horizontal spacing. And now everything is perfectly aligned. Look at that. It's beautiful. All right, so let's select those again, and now we're going to group. Now you can do Control or Command G. You can go to Group here on this little bar that keeps popping up. This is a newer thing in Illustrator, and I'm loving it. So we're just going to use that, because what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of this. So we're going to select, make our copy, but now they're the wrong way. So we're going to come back over to our transform and we're going to flip it, but this time we're going to flip horizontal. And luckily enough, I had already had it already intersected, which never really happens. And but there you have it. So we're just going to make sure that everything is aligned here before we do our next step. Okay, so I selected everything there, and because these are grouped and this is one object, it's actually looking at it like it's only 3 objects at the moment. And let's just do a right. Yep, that looks good. Okay. All right, we're going to select everything here. Now this time, instead of using the shape builder, because then you have to go through all these little all these things, we're going to go back to the Pathfinder tool, and I'll go this way because it's easier to see. Pathfinder, there it is. And I'm going to click Unite. So there is our center tab. Now we have one more little thing to do with this, and that is we need to add tabs on the side so they can connect to these pieces. So we're going to come back over, and I'm just going to click, and I'm going to make the width 2.6 because that's about what the other one was, and the height is going to be 0.5. And I'm going to drag this over and zoom in. We're going to go back to the direct selection tool, click an anchor point, and I'm going to use my down arrow. I'm going to go 4, I think, on this. Okay. And I'm going to intersect these lines, make sure they're lined up. And I'm also going to align them. So I'm going to come back down to my align and do my align center. Now remember, we have the other side too, so we have to click this and make a copy. I'm going to come back up to the top and flip it again. And I'm going to zoom back out. Hand tool. Oh, zoom out a little more. Hand tool, there we go. And I'm going to click, drag this over, make sure it's on that line. And I should have just waited. But anyway, I'm selecting everything and then I'm going to go back down to the align tool or the window align and select center. And there we go. Now we're going to select both of these again and go back down to Pathfinder and Unite. Now we have all of our pieces. I'm going to zoom back out and I'm going to take these, I'm going to group them, and I'm just going to move them over here. So here are all of our pieces for our popsicle. Now, I'm going to make this the same color. Let's go to the eyedropper tool. When you use the eyedropper tool and you click on a color, it could even be the background, whatever the attributes are for that object, then that's what it changes it to. Like, for example, the popsicle stick, if I click this, I'll zoom in, you can see that the popsicle stick actually has a brown fill and a black outline or a black stroke, and that's exactly what that piece has, but we're just going to make it blue. So just like these pieces, it is that cyan color with a black stroke. And that really doesn't mean anything when you export as an SVG to import into Illustrator or into Design Space, because it only actually looks at the shape. If you really wanted an outline, then one of the things you could do is create, you would have to create a path, or not create a path, expand the path. Where am I at here? You need to go to path and then outline stroke. And outline stroke will then actually make it into like a rectangle, frame, circle, whatever that shape is. Anyway, so there's that. Now you can keep it all one color if you want. However, I want my popsicle to actually have colors on it. I want it to have 3 different colors. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take both of these and I'm going to make a copy. I'm just going to move up here into this off of the quote-unquote paper. So let's do this up here. Okay, and we need to make sure that let's zoom in. Okay, so we're going to take this object and we're going to move it over top of this one. And we're going to align this to the top to make sure that they're both there. Now again, I'm sure there's an easier way to do this, but this is the way that I've been doing it. And I'm just going to move this over because you can't do align center or anything because the width of these are a little bit different. I don't think you can. Let's try that because of the way it is. I'm just going to make a copy. Let's see what happens. Okay. I might be proven wrong. I might prove myself wrong. Okay, so I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to do this. Nope, doesn't like it. Nope, see, I was right the first time. Anyway. All right, now that everything's aligned, we're going to make one solid object. So we're going to select both, come down to Pathfinder, click Unite, and now we have literally one object. So like I said, I want my ice cream cone to be in multiple colors. And the easiest way that I thought of to do it was to, when I go to cut everything out, whatever I want my top color to be is actually going to be the paper that I used to cut this out. Now the other two pieces are going to actually be glued then on top of these other ones, and it'll all happen when we fold. So let's do, I'm going to actually not click on that. I'm just going to draw a line, and we're going to bump up so you can see. And I click the selection tool again, come over, I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to angle it, because I want my colors to be diagonal. Let's make this a little longer. Okay, there we go. All right. So just like we used with the tabs down here, I am going to use that same distribution process. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm selecting the top line and the top of the popsicle, and I'm going to align that to top. Oops, not that way. Actually, I'm just going to eyeball it. Okay, now that I'm going to select both the top line and the top of the popsicle. And I'm going to zoom in. I'm just going to move this wherever I want it. We're going to make this smaller so you can actually see. Okay, so there's that. And then let's scroll down to the bottom. I'm going to go back down to, I'll just do a 0.5. It doesn't really matter. And I'll show you why in a second. Okay, so let's zoom back out. I'm going to come down here. Now I'm going to select everything. But if there are parts, like I don't need the body of the popsicle at this point. I just need the lines. So, but I selected everything. To unselect a part, hold down your Shift key with your direct selection tool, or with your selection tool selected, and then click on the object that you don't want. So now it's just the 4 lines that are selected. I need to distribute this, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to distribute the horizontal this time. And now you can see it's perfectly spaced, right? All right, we're going to click off of this and actually delete these 2 lines because we don't need them anymore. They are guidelines. And now we're going to select the 2 lines and the whole body of the front, the viewable part of the popsicle, and we're going to divide. So we're going to come down here, go to my Pathfinder, and I'm going to select divide, which is like these 2 boxes with the lines. So, okay. And now we're going to ungroup. And we don't need the top because the top's already on the bottom. But to just keep myself sane, I am going to select this. And I want this to be like a magenta color. And then the bottom, I want sort of an orangish color. It'll again, depends on the paper that you choose. Okay. So we have all these. Now we have one more step, and that is actually to create our score lines. So let's start with this one. And let's do something here first. Let's scroll back, come back out. All right, all of these have a stroke to them, all of these. And you can, if you're watching over here, I'll click through and you can see that every single one has a stroke. We're going to get rid of the stroke because that's going to make it a little bit more difficult to see visually. So let's select all of these and we're going to come up here in my swatches, or you can go over here. We'll just go over here. And when you click on the stroke color, which is black, you have the option of turning it off or removing the stroke. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. We're going to click this line, this white box with a line. Now you get a white box with a line. Okay. All right, now we'll go back in. So I'm going to zoom and I'm going to close this. And I'm going to come over and I'm going to grab my my line tool. I'm going to click where I want it to go. Hold the shift key down. Oops. It's because I waited too long. Let's make sure it's not there. Nope. Okay, good. All right. Do it again. All right. So line segment tool, click where you want it, shift, and drag. Now you can see down here where it has the, there's no fill and no stroke. So we're just going to make it black. Okay. And now that we have this one, we're going to make a copy and bring it down here. Now it's important where these go because this is where your score lines will ultimately end up. So let's zoom in further on this and see where we end up. Okay, I'm going to reduce the size of my stroke so I get a better indication. I'm going to 0.5. And I will tell you, I try to make my, and if you hold down the shift key and click on the anchor at the end of a line, it'll still keep it straight. But I'd like to extend it a little bit past the object just to make sure that it is there. That all my folds are there. I try to avoid any kind of issues. Okay, so let's come over here and we're going to click. Oops, I didn't need to do that. So I'm going to click my direct selection tool. I'm going to click here, hold down my shift key, and I'm going to drag it just a little bit. And because I like that one better, I'm going to delete the one on the bottom. Pull this down here. And I'm going to align these. Like the thing is that you can do things differently. Like I could have drawn the lines before I had merged or united all of these objects together and did a line top and a line bottom. I mean, you can do that too. It's not that big of a deal. So now I have these two. Now we're going to make the score lines for the tabs on the side. So again, I'm going to select my segment tool, and because this is straight, I'm just going to go here. I'm going to click, hold down the shift, and I'm going to drag, and that's going to make our straight line. And again, we have to make that, and we're going to go down to 0.5. Okay, so there's that one, and then we're going to copy paste. I didn't like my copy paste. Oh, sometimes if you copy paste and you can't find it, it's probably sitting somewhere in the middle of your artboard. Sometimes. Or, I mean, this could be it could end it up here too, because this is the center of the view that I have. All right, let's All right, let's go down here. And there we go. That's that. So that's like the hardest one, I think. So we're going to select all of these. And this is a huge trick for making sure that you do not have to go and select each layer in Design Space to convert these lines into score lines. And sometimes I actually make them into pen lines because sometimes I just use the scoring stylus that I have for my Air 2, and I put it in my maker so I don't have to switch tools out. But that's totally up to your preference. We'll be there in a little while. Okay, so I have everything here selected, and I'm going to hold the shift, and I'm going to unselect this blue area. So now the only thing I have left is my lines. I'm going to come over to Object, down to, where am I going here? Compound Path, and I'm going to make. Now this is all one object. And remember, because it's here, if you leave it here and you don't switch it over into scoring or like the pen tool to just score, it will literally cut it. So, but what we're going to do here is we're actually going to copy both these, and then we're going to group them together. And you'll see when we get into Design Space how that ends up. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing here, but we're going to draw this straight line down. And then we're going to click on that and bring the other one over here. And double check to make sure that this is aligned correctly. Oh, see, I'm off. All right, so we're just going to bring this over, and you don't have to hold the shift key down if you don't want to. So I'm going to bring that here, and this one looks good. I'm bump it up a little bit. All right, let's zoom back out. And just because I'm picky, I am going to select both of those. I'm going to align them to the bottom. Okay. We're going to go back up to Object and down to Compound Path and Make. So now it's one object. And because we need two of these, we're going to click on it, and we're going to make a copy. And it's the same exact width on this side. So we just need to align where we want these. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to align with the other segment, but we are going to zoom in here. See, we're off again. Okay, so we're going to move these to about there. All right, those are already done. Oops. Now we're going to group this together. Oh, nope, we have to do one more thing. I almost forgot. We have to do the bottom. Okay, let's go down here, and we're going to do our line tool. Oops. Cancel that. And you see I'm lining it up from that where that fold is. Okay, and I'm just going to drag across for that. And then we're going to take this and we're going to make a copy and move that down here. Zoom in so we can move this around a little bit. Okay. All right, so we're going to take these, select both of these and this, and now we're going to make one big compound path. So Object, Compound Path, Make. So now you've eliminated having to go into Design Space and literally try to select all these lines, and which is always a pain in the booty. Alrighty, so we have all of our pieces parts, right? So now we have all of our pieces parts, but now we're going to resize. So what I do is, all right, let's take this and move this again. Move this over here. Oh, the one thing I should have said like a long time ago is that you should save your work. Although Illustrator does have a recovery function, which is fabulous, you should save your work. So I'm going to do a save. I'm going to save it out to my Creative Cloud account, and I'm going to make it UDIT Pop 3D. Okay. Alrighty. And it will auto-save up to the cloud when you use that Illustrator, or when you've saved to the cloud from Illustrator or from Photoshop, whatever. Okay, so now we have all of our pieces, right? So we're just going to group everything together at this point. Oh no, I know what we were going to do. Okay, let's back up. All right, so now we're going to resize. So I'm just going to grab the rectangle tool, and I'm going to use an 8x10 frame. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle that's 8x10. And I'm going to just simulate part of my, let's make sure we have everything here before I do anything. Okay, shift. We're going to make sure it's grouped. Okay. All right, so we're just going to bring this over here and bring it to front. Let's change the color because it is the same color as the popsicle stick. I don't know why it really matters, but that's just who I am. Okay. Let's make it that color. Okay. Let's go back here. All right, so there is our popsicle, but we want it to be maybe a little bit bigger. This is this would be like an 8x10 frame. So you don't want to make it the whole height of your frame. You want to give it some space, but you also don't want it to be too small so where it gets swallowed. So all I'm going to do is make sure that any of these things are not below and I'm going to select these, and I'm going to select this, and I'm just going to make it, just going to make it bigger. Now that I'm increasing the size, make sure you hold down the shift key to move. This will keep all of your dimensions, your width, your height, everything will be exactly the same. If not, it will totally screw it up. Okay, let's see. Oh, I think that looks pretty good. Okay. All right, now let's get rid of this. That'll be our size. Bring this over. All right, make sure this is grouped. And our stripes are grouped. And I know that this is grouped. So there we have all of our pieces. Oh, one little thing, if you want, we're going to come over, I'm going to zoom in over here real quick. On your frame or wherever, if you wanted to make like a little strip, or a little drip, then you can actually just take the, make a little circle. Let's get a circle and figure out how I'm going to do this. Okay, I'm just going to make a little circle. And then, okay, so now that we have our circle, we're going to come over here and we're going to make sure, let's change this to outline. All right, then we're going to come over under the shaper tool and go to the pencil, which is right below like where the shapes are. I'm going to grab that. Now what I'm going to do is put that on the line of the circle, and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag, and I'm just going to kind of so you go from line to line, you draw whatever you want, and then it will actually change the shape. That's not a very good drip. Okay, let's try that one again. All right, there we go. So this can be our drip. And then if you want to, you can click on the direct selection tool and you can take and you can move different pieces around. You just have to make sure you're using the handle. So I'm going to move this around, move this, and you can actually change the shape of the drip. So it's and you can actually put this right on the frame. And depending on what the size of your frame is, I mean, you can always modify this, but we'll take this in and do it. It's not a biggie. Oops. And change this. Again, this is something that I could sit and tweak for hours and hours. So what I did there is I was actually changing the type of handles that are on these, because sometimes they're square, like too angular. But anyway, another way you can do this too is literally just to cut it out with a piece of paper or with a pair of scissors with your whatever paper. All right, so I'm just going to, sometimes that's easier to do. I don't really ever do anything easy, so but I'm just going to make this just a little smaller. That's about the ugliest thing ever. Alrighty, so now we have all of our pieces parts. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to select everything. And I am going to group it. This way, when you put it in the asset panel, it won't break it up into a bunch of itty bitty little pieces. So we're going to group this, and here's my asset panel. You can also go to Window and Assets. And now with this selected, you're going to click, and you're literally going to drag it over into this box. And you can see it change to like a dark gray background with, it says Asset 1 with a plus sign. So you drag it over and then you let go. And there it is. I would get into the habit of actually naming these two. So if you double click on it and you can find things better. Plus, if you do multiple projects, it'll always start out with Asset 1. So if you have Asset 1 for this project and Asset 1 for the next project, you'll maybe end up overwriting what you need. Anyway, so this is the, I'm just going to name it the UDIT pop. Okay. Now, down here in this panel, this is where you can select what type of export that you want. So I definitely want an SVG because we're going to pull it directly into Design Space and then make this. Right? Yes. There's one thing I forgot, and I will do it in Design Space because I'm going to show you how to do it. All right. So there we have that. So now we're going to export. You can choose where you want to export it. I'm just putting it in my downloads folder, and that's it. Save. And we are done with Illustrator for now. Okay, so now we're going to upload image. I'm not going to click or drag. I'm just going to browse, go and find my thing. Downloads. Okay. the UDIT pop. So there's my popsicle. So we're going to open, and then we're going to continue and continue. We're going to upload. Every time I open Design Space, there's something new. Alrighty. Now, the one thing I didn't talk about, and we'll switch back in a second, was the fact that sometimes Design Space actually makes SVGs larger in when SVGs are open in Design Space. So we're going to jump back over to Illustrator real quick. And select our everything and see what it's 13.5814. Okay, let's go back to Design Space. And because I'm on my laptop, oh, nope, that's right. Okay, good. Yay. All right, now here are all of our pieces parts. And you can see, like for an example, well, let's ungroup this first. Okay. That you can see that the score lines on here are different than the score lines. Like, you don't have to select everything. So what we're going to do is, and one of the things that you can do is actually select all of your score lines all at one time in Illustrator and group everything together. However, what happens is if you move stuff around, then it just causes a big problem. So anyway, like your main parts. So I'm going to select this and hold my shift key down and select this one, which is on this, and then this, which is on here, and I don't know what that basic cut is. I have to figure that one out. All right, anyway, I'm going to come over here, and instead of that, I'm going to do, I'm actually going to use my pen tool so I don't have to swap out tools in my maker. So we're going to come here and do that. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is actually make duplicates of our popsicle stick. So I'm going to do 5. So I'm just going to duplicate 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Oops. Wrong thing. Because there's something else that we need to do. We have to make sure that we attach all of our parts together so that the score lines don't end up in one place and the object ends up someplace else. So we're going to select both of these. Select that and this. Oops, why are we doing this? There we go. And we're going to attach. And then we're going to select these two and attach. And then we will select all 4 of these and attach. And as you can see, mine says draw. That's what it says. It says draw. All right, so there's all of our pieces. So you can make this into whatever color that you want, even if you want to use it, and if you don't. Actually, I'm going to, just leave it there. Okay. So now we're going to go to make it. Yes, I would like to save. And I'm just going to say UDIT pop. Save. All right, so now we have 4 different mats. However, we are going to combine these two. So let's click on that, move object, and we're just going to put it on this one. And put that one there. Actually, let's put it on this side. Oops, I forgot one thing. That little drippy thing. Okay, move. We'll see what it looks like. We might like it. We might not. I don't know. Okay. Like I said before, you can make it whatever color that you want it. You can cut it out with a pair of scissors. Okay. Now I'm going to continue. Okay, so I had to go back and make a change because of my setup, like where my machines are. Instead of using the pen, the scoring stylus to draw the lines, it's actually, I went back and changed it to using the score tool. And the only reason why I don't like using the score tool is because I really hate the fact that I have to swap out tools in the middle of a job, whereas like with the pen tool used as a or the scoring stylus used as a quote-unquote pen, you can it'll just run both of those functions at the same time. So anyway, I'm going to select the medium cardstock, and I'm going to select more and make sure that I'm on my first first mat, and I have 3 mats. So anyway, I'm gonna stop the recording and then come back after everything is cut. Okay, now that we have everything cut out, we are going to assemble our popsicle. So I'm going to be using 2 different types of glue potentially, and also double-sided tape runner. The glue that I prefer to use when putting together 3D paper projects is actually Barely Art glue, but unfortunately I misplaced mine, so we're just going to pivot and use what we got, right? Okay, so initially in Illustrator we had made only 5 copies of the popsicle sticks. However, I realized that we needed 8 to keep the thickness. So I'm just going to glue those all together. Do that real quick. And now we're going to just fold where the score lines are so that we can start building our popsicle. And you want to make sure that things are as creased as possible. So I actually had created 2 of those pieces for the round part. And I realized when I was going through it that I had already made a mistake. So here I am, taking those pieces, and little by little, I'm going to play with forcing that paper to curve and to bend into that bite into the popsicle. And you have to be very patient with it. I've also had to cut some tabs and different things. So to help with the curvature of it, I just use my mouse pad and one of my tools and just kind of burnish down on it to make it a little bit more pliable and bendable. As I'm molding these tabs on, you'll notice that I've actually taken the scissors and I've cut different pieces and things to make it actually fit onto that top portion of it. And that's the one thing, when you are designing things on your own, they're not going to be perfect from the get-go. And if you're doing a one-off, it's okay just to go ahead and, change whatever you need to with scissors and whatnot to complete your project. Now, of course, you can go back in and you can make those modifications in Illustrator. Now what I'm doing is I am taking the colored pieces and want to apply those onto my popsicle. What I didn't show you was in Design Space I actually added these score lines to make it a little bit easier to attach to the popsicle. And you just want to try to burnish things down as much as possible. And now the pink part. My best piece of advice to give you is to enjoy the process from start to finish, from Illustrator through actually completing this project with all of your cardstock and adhesives and whatnot. But now we're going to add in the popsicle stick itself. So I'm going to put some double-sided tape on it and maneuver it inside of the popsicle. Sorry, I'm off camera. And as soon as I find out where I want it, I'm going to push down. And then I'm going to grab my scissors so I can get inside. And there you have it. You did it. Start to finish from Illustrator, the whole way through Design Space. And now you have a popsicle. Well, you did it. I am so excited you made it the whole way through this video. I hope that you learned a lot and ended up creating your own 3D paper popsicle. I would love to see what you do with them. I would love to see what you designed, whether you put polka dots or stripes or made it a solid color with a bite, with no bite, whatever. It is totally up to you because it is yours. Now, if you're going to include it in a display or attach it to a frame, I would love to see those pictures too. So in the description below is a link to my Facebook group. Please upload your pictures. I would love to see them. And if you have any suggestions or comments, please put below and don't forget to like and subscribe. So I look forward to seeing you on this fun and exciting journey and have a very creative day.